How's it going, lads? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be chatting a little bit about the Easter Rising, and mainly we're going to be talking about the 16 leaders that were executed after the Easter Rising. So as we're in the month of April, this marks the 107th anniversary of the Easter Rising. The 1916 Easter Rising was a rebellion against British rule in Ireland that took place from the 24th of April 1916 to the 29th of April. To give you a bit of a backstory, after the 1798 United Irishman Rebellion, Ireland lost its parliament and formed with Great Britain to become the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. After many a dispute in Ireland about the introduction of Home Rule, and while Britain were preoccupied with World War I, Irish Republicans rised on Easter week and seized some of the major buildings in Dublin. From a military point of view, a lot of people would look at the 1916 Easter Rising as a failure. However, it wasn't really a failure. After 16 of the Irish patriots were executed after the Rising, and after innocent civilians getting murdered in the street, it quickly swung Irish people's opinions towards republicanism and anti-British rule in Ireland. The 1916 Easter Rising essentially caused a change of heart like no other rebellion in Irish history has ever done. So now let's talk about the 16 executed leaders of the Rising. We're going to start first of all with the 7 signatories. Number 1 is Eamon Cant of Galway. He was co-founder of the Irish Volunteers and commander of the 4th Battalion of Volunteers during the 1916 Rising. Himself and his men were fighting at the South Dublin Union during the rebellion, and he was executed on the 8th of May 1916. Number 2 is Thomas James Clark of the Isle of Wight. Thomas was a treasurer of the Irish Republican Brotherhood. He fought in the GPO during the Rising, and he was executed on the 3rd of May 1916. Number 3 is James Connolly of Edinburgh, Scotland. He was a co-founder of the Irish Citizens Army. During the Rising, he was Commandant General of the Dublin forces, and he fought in the GPO with those men. Due to his injuries during the rebellion, he was actually executed sitting down on a chair on the 12th of May 1916. He was actually the last of the signatories to be executed. Number 4 is Sean McDermott of Belfast. In 1906, he joined the Irish Republican Brotherhood while he was living in Belfast. He then moved to Dublin and became manager of the IRB newspaper, Irish Freedom. He fought in the GPO during the Rising, and he was executed on the 12th of May 1916. Number 5 was a Tipperary man called Thomas MacDonagh. He helped found St Enda's School in Dublin alongside Patrick Pearse. In 1914, he was appointed Director of Training of the Irish Volunteers and later joined the Irish Republican Brotherhood. He was commander of the 2nd Battalion of Irish Volunteers that fought at Jacob's Biscuit Factory in Dublin, and Thomas was executed on the 3rd of May 1916. Number 6 is a Dublin man by the name of Patrick Pearse. Patrick Pearse was one of the founders of the Irish Volunteers, and he was also the author of the Irish Proclamation for Independence. Pearse fought in the GPO during the Rising, and he was Commander-in-Chief of the Irish Forces. Patrick was executed on the 3rd of May 1916. And the final signatory was another Dublin man by the name of Joseph Mary Plunkett. Joseph joined the Irish Volunteers in 1913, and the year after, in 1914, he joined the Irish Republican Brotherhood. In 1915, Plunkett actually went to Germany to help out Roger Casement. They were over there trying to recruit some Irish prisoners of war and also get some German arms and ammunition for the Rising. During the Rising, he was appointed Director of Military Operations and fought in the GPO. Joseph was executed at dawn on the 4th of May 1916, just hours after marrying his wife, Grace Gifford. That was all 7 of the signatories, so now we're going to move on to all the rest of the leaders. Next up, number 8 is Roger Casement from Dublin. Roger joined the Irish Volunteers in 1913, and as I said earlier, he went to Germany to try and form an Irish brigade from Irish prisoners of war over there, and he also tried to get German guns and ammunition to bring back for the Rising. He did actually manage to get some German guns and ammunition, and on his way back to Ireland for the Rising, he was captured on a German boat. He was executed on the 3rd of August 1916 in England, and he was the only man to be executed outside of Ireland. Next up is Con Colbert of Limerick. He was a member of Fianna Éireann and the Irish Volunteers. Con was captain of the F Company 4th Battalion Irish Volunteers, and he fought at Marrowbone Lane Distillery. Con was executed on the 8th of May 1916. Next up is Edward Daly from Limerick. Edward came from a very Republican family. His uncle had actually previously fought in the 1867 Irish Rebellion. Edward led the 1st Battalion during the Rising, which actually raided Bridewell and Linnenhall, and they later actually seized and captured the forecourts. Edward Daly was executed on the 4th of May. Next up is Sean Houston from Dublin. Sean was actually responsible for the formation of Fianna Éireann in Limerick. Sean led the 1st Battalion of Irish Volunteers that fought at Mendicity Institute, which is just south of the River Liffey. Sean was executed on the 8th of May 1916, and the railway station in Dublin, Euston Station, is named after Sean. Next up is Thomas Kent from Cork. Thomas actually wasn't in Dublin for the Rising. His house got raided by the Royal Irish Constabulary on the 22nd of April. He intended on being there in Dublin for the Rising, however the Irish Volunteers actually sent out a notice that the volunteers were to stand down, so he actually just presumed that the Easter Rising was postponed. Thomas was executed on the 9th of May 1916 in Cork detention barracks after a court-martial. Next up is a Mayo man by the name of John MacBride. John actually moved to America in 1896 to further the aims of the Irish Republican Brotherhood. John then travelled to South Africa where he formed the Irish Transvaal Brigade during the Second Boer War. John wasn't even a member of the Irish Volunteers, but he asked Thomas MacDonagh before the Rising if he wanted his services. John ended up fighting at Jacob's Biscuit Factory in Dublin, and he was executed on the 5th of May 1916. Next up is a Dublin man called Michael Mallon. He actually fought alongside Constance Markievicz and the Irish Citizens Army at Stephen's Green in Dublin City. Michael was executed on the 8th of May 1916. The 15th man was a Wexford man by the name of Michael O'Hanrahan, and Michael was actually heavily involved in the promotion of the Irish language. Michael was second in command to Thomas MacDonagh at Jacob's Biscuit Factory, and he was executed on the 4th of May 1916. And the 16th and final man was William Pearce, who was a younger brother of the signatory Patrick Pearce. William assisted his older brother Patrick in running St Enda's School in Dublin, and he also fought alongside him in the GPO. William was executed on the 4th of May 1916, and Pearse Railway Station in Dublin is actually named after the two brothers Patrick and William Pearce. And that was just a brief summary on the 16 Irish patriots that were executed after the 1916 Easter Rising. I hope you enjoyed this video, lads. I'll have a lot more information coming about the 1916 Rising, seeing as we're in the month of April and leading into May. There will be a lot more to come. If you want to support the channel, you can sign up to the Patreon below, or just drop a like on the video and comment whatever video you want to see next. Thanks a million, lads. I'll talk to you in the next one.
Low lie the fields of Athenry, where once we watched the small free birds fly. Our love was on the wing, we had dreams and songs to sing. It's so lonely round the fields of Athenry. By a lonely prison wall, I heard a young man call.